Welcome to the July 3rd bhyve production user call. We have Hans, Jan, Alexander, Andrew, Gibran, John, and Haizam, plus myself, Michael, so far. And news, there will be a Eurobhyvecon during EuroBSDCon. They've added a day for other events like a NetBSD event. You are encouraged to check that out. Hans has been making progress porting the Illumos CPU ID code to FreeBSD. Thank you for that, Hans. Please, everyone, reach out if you want to help fund that work. And it seems FreeBSD 15 is now enforcing correct bridge configuration. There's a link to Jan's article that became a wiki page on correct bridge configuration. I will switch over to it, take a peek at that. There's now a key point assist control that lets you set the old behavior if you really need to have it, which, by the way, should be in VM bhyve, or they should fix their behavior. Moving on. Let's see, what was this one? Oh, that's how we got there. Alexei gave CSMWrap a quick try, but found that it only works with text mode systems. Check it out, the link is there. And we discussed the FreeBSD 15 release notes. Thank you, Alexander, for all of your help there. It sounds like, if anything, that networking behavior is worth squeezing in. A key theme is that the move from distribution sets to package base might very much need sections to change, but so far it seems in bhyve the example is simply the VM run script. John is happy with his new MikroTik switch, and let's see, Jan pointed out that you can use your phone to diagnose and identify if fiber lasers are illuminated and do protect your eyes. And let's see, Andrew pointed out that if you, there's an interesting article out there that if you point your phone at a LiDAR-powered Waymo car, it may blow out your phone camera, which kind of stinks. And then Haizam joined perfectly in time and has some Sylve updates. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen.
Perfect.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a few things from the last call I had joined in on. If you guys remember, there was this thing called the cache stuff, primary cache stuff.
Yes.
Now you can set that on the UI.
Nice.
So you can, set the primary cache to metadata. It's defaults to metadata, but you can click none or whatever you want.
Nice.
And another thing with volumes is that you can now flash volumes, so kind of DD over it. So if I pick OpenWRT's volume here and then I flash OpenWRT's image, it just, happens magically. So now we have OpenWRT flashed over this volume. So that's that. And snapshots now have.
Are you familiar with CamDD? It's a native FreeBSD DD. And I found that it often gives the correct requested number of blocks rather than rounding. I'm happy to be wrong on that, but CamDD, I'll drop it in the chat there, not to distract you, but CamDD, just as it sounds, like CAM, the CAM layer in FreeBSD.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah, that sounds nice. I
cool.
can
Go
try
ahead.
that out.
Sorry to distract you, but hey, there's so much going on.
Yeah, no worries.
Great
I
work.
like questions
Love
or
it,
notes
love
in
it.
between. That's good.
So
then we have.
Jan has a quick one.
There's another big advantage to CamDD, because Cam is, at least if you use the pass-through mode, a layer below normal DD, where DD just treats everything as a file. CamDD is aware of the Cam subsystem, and that means that you can do more than you can do with just reading and writing a single system call. Instead, you can select the record size and the queue depth. And especially the queue depth is important if you want to get full throughput from from some kind of network attached block storage. Because you can actually say, hey, I want to have a queue depth of, 32, 256, whatever your iSCSI or NVMe over Fabrics, Fiber Channel, or whatever supports. You can actually queue up enough writes to keep it 100% busy.
So I've dropped the manual page in the chat and document. Go ahead.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm going to try that out. And we have periodic snapshots now, which is kind of cool. So you can set an interval here. I would probably give the option to have cron syntax here. So that's something, yeah. And then you can select a pool, select whichever data set you want. And then this will take a snapshot every n minutes or whatever it is.
So two things.
And
Optional cron syntax would be great. A lot of people get tripped up on it, especially coming from, say, TrueNAS, FreeNAS. And snapshot before and or / after boot would be great.
That would come
that
under
it's a
the
clean
create
state.
VM section. I would probably add that here. Yeah.
As a start, like, hey,
That is
every time I know that it should be quiesced, grab a snapshot because that's the best opportunity ever. Thank you. Appreciated.
Yeah. That's on the roadmap, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah. And what else is there on pool side? I mean, ZFS side. I think that's pretty much it on ZFS side. We improved the UI a lot. So like everything is like really snappy now. So that's that. And for the VMs, like in the last call, we also mentioned CPU pinning. So now that's there.
Oh goodness. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So now I've pinned all these, what do we call it? Cores into Windows here.
Is there a range syntax so that you can say, I want to pin CPU 4 to 7?
I didn't really work on that much. I just wanted to kind of see how that works in the first place. So I'll probably have something better than this for like
the visualization is great.
Yeah, and just knowing this is a great start.
Having a text field with an equivalent set of continuous ranges would be nice. And then because it's a lot faster to edit that once you have done it a few times at least, so that you don't have to go point, click, point, click, point, click, point, click, point, click. And you will, it's a lot easier to just say, oh, cost 12 to 15 are pinned for this machine.
Yeah, that mostly is a UI thing. The backend will kind of remain the same. Yeah. That's something that I'm working on. This is kind of just for demonstration, I would say, just so that we know it works. Yeah. And now VMs editing is somewhat there now. Like for storage, you can attach new storage or remove storage here. So you can maybe like if I pick CD-ROM, we pick virtio win ISO, the drivers file. It just attaches to the VM. So that's kind of cool. And you can also edit RAM and CPUs. So that's also pretty new.
One recommendation would be to differentiate between just thousands and 1024. So basically binary gigabytes and SI.
Okay. Gigabytes. About that. The thing is, you can enter any kind of format here. So you can type in 1024M or 1024 MIB or 10GIB, whatever you want. Sorry.
So if I say 8 GB bits, it gives me 1 gigabyte. A gigabyte. Because
I think you like 8 like this.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that should work fine. Yeah. The display is probably single one because it kind of gets confusing on the front end side if I make it multiple, but it always translates to G at the end. So kind of like the ZFS format. So you can give
because for disk storage it has become quite common to use the thousands, so and for RAM and stuff it's common to use powers of 2 instead.
Yes, sir. Let him rock and roll.
Yep.
So that's that. You can have, I just typed in megabytes here, so 16384 megabytes.
But then your megabyte is already not in powers of 2.
Sorry?
Try 16 GEB.
GEB?
Yep.
GIB?
GIB, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's a Latvian I.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have 16 gigabytes. Instead of it shows gigabytes here. Yeah, it rounds off.
So maybe that's the default representation so that it uses powers of 2 by default
Yeah,
instead
exactly.
of
Yeah.
multiples of or powers of
Mhm.
1,000. Powers of
Mhm.
1,024, yeah.
Do you think a
So
user
that's
would ever
that.
need for debugging to see exactly what it is or experimentation? Or
I
could it be
would, yeah,
seen
that's a
behind
good
the
idea. I
scenes
would
somewhere?
probably put it in brackets or something. Yeah, like, yeah,
Just
that's
in
nice.
case.
Yeah,
I
I could
mean,
do that.
don't
Lower
hide easy
contrast
information.
in brackets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I'm loving this. Go ahead.
That's that.
Oh, that's
And
really
yeah,
neat. Thank
some
you.
nice little graphs here.
Nice.
So you can zoom in and
Hell
out.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That's that. And what else? Yeah, switching is a little bit more verbose now. I mean, not verbose, like a more functionality, I would say. You can
Okay.
assign DHCP over a bridge now and SLA AC as well. This kind of works really well because last call, I think Jan was the one mentioned that like assigning an IP to an interface and then doing it over the bridge is a pretty bad idea.
Oh yeah, we just
And
covered that for
because
what it's worth, and the behavior's changed in 15, so note the link there. Go ahead.
yeah. So now you can remove whatever IP the interface has, then assign it over the bridge here. So you select DHCP here, it'll assign the DHCP IP to the bridge instead of the interface. So that's that. And what else? Yeah, PCI pass-throughs improved a lot. So
Boy.
like it saves the original driver that was there because I noticed that if you detach and clear the driver when you attach it again, FreeBSD kind of forgets what kind of driver it
Ooh,
needs.
great point. Yes.
Yeah, so now I store the old driver in the DB. So like for instance, I probably can't disable it here because I'm already using it in a VM. But where would I go? Which one can I pass through without breaking my system?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see here. We passed through USB the other day, right? Do you guys remember what bus it
Yes,
was?
USB worked. USB
Yeah, see this
HCI
one, right?
controller, fourth from the top.
Yeah. So now we enable pass through. So what happens is it clears the driver, moves it over to PPT,
Yep.
and then when you're going back, it assigns the original driver, which is like really cool. Because I was showing this demo to somebody else yesterday, and it got really messed up
the
because
demist output?
demessage output in the sense. Oh, okay, like that, yeah. Let's see.
Oh.
Just what happens when you do that.
Okay. And demessage. Can we follow
it's on
this?
USB stick. What's that?
So let me just. Can we follow this demessage output or?
What? One quick thing, FreeNAS TrueNAS has always had the option to have demessage output at the very bottom of the web screen, and that might be a nice little option that'll be familiar to people. Just saying.
You can do that with syslog. Just select the right messages with syslog.
Yep.
And
one other quick point, note that you absolutely need VMM loaded for the pass-through to work, and it's easy to forget about that if you've always had it loaded and then you don't have it loaded and then it doesn't work and you wonder. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Regarding that, the prerequisites, we are moving from that shell script over to like Go itself.
Yep.
So all the packages that you need to have installed, this is sysctl configs and all that kind of stuff. We kind of do a pre-flight checklist in Go itself now.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't want people to get confused by like, okay, I should run this script first, then the binary. Like it confused me itself in the last few days. So I kind of worked on that a little bit.
Great. Good.
So
Continue with pass-through.
That's that. Yeah.
Another device you could probably safely pass through would be your audio.
Unless you're talking on it right now. But
I'm using a different machine.
You have an Intel high definition audio controller. Oh, it's already passed through.
Oh yeah, this comes with my graphics card.
Oh, okay.
Oh, correct. Those are often tied.
Yeah, the HDMI stuff, right? So
yeah.
But I can independently like disable it though. Like, okay, it's now using my VM, but we can do that. So that's kind of cool. This is a lot more stable now after I did that driver storage stuff. It took a while for me to figure out what was the issue. It is kind of embarrassing, but it works now. And downloads now support like weird URLs, like for Windows and stuff, you get very
Oh.
weird URLs. So
Oh,
that is supported
interesting.
now. Yeah.
Do
So
you
that's
have
a
support
small thing.
for fetching common operating systems built in?
I could have that. I was just talking about that with my colleagues. The thing is, we would need template URLs for kind of everything. So
Yeah,
we could do
just
that.
basically.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
mean, you could
But
just host a file on the GitHub with a JSON of known installers or whatever, so that you
exactly.
always
Yeah, yeah,
get
yeah.
the
We
new
could
distribution.
have that.
Just put it on your
Yeah,
GitHub
that's a good
page or
idea.
wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
Keeping those up to date is a nightmare, having tried to keep them up to date for years. But yeah, some
Not
OSs are great
patch,
about
just
having
the
latest for what it's worth.
Mhm.
or even patterns to try.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, So yeah, kind of
That's
okay. I want to have a Debian, and then you can drop down of known versions, and
Yeah,
maybe
that's
do
actually
an
really cool.
do
You
an
know, wait, let
HTTP
me just
head
write the.
before.
Are we noting this in the minutes? Like,
Yes, I am.
so, okay, that's good.
So if you do an HTTP head or whatever to make sure you don't get a 404, you can then basically,
Mhm.
if you can't, if your head request gets an error, you say red, and it's green if you, the head request for that resource worked.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
So
we
even
kind of
if
do that
it's
for the links here. Like if you're given a URL that doesn't work, we kind of fail silently because there's no point downloading something that's not there. It maybe give us an HTML file or something. So we do that in a smaller way. I really like magnets for this use case because that's why we implemented magnets first and HTTP next, because magnets are much easier to deal with. So
so yeah.
yeah,
Finally,
that's
you're really
that.
using BitTorrent for Linux ISOs.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
is it
that.
John Mark Gurney who is maintaining those for FreeBSD?
Yes, I think I think so. Yeah.
By the way, if you use something like Aria 2 that has a fairly easy to use RPC interface to fetch
Mm-hmm.
files via BitTorrent, so if the operating system truly provides a blessed magnet URL
Mm-hmm.
with web seeds, servers, and so on, you actually can make use of peer-to-peer technology. It works perfectly fine because you have at least a SHA-1 hash as which the SHA-1 hash of the info block in the torrent file
Mm-hmm.
kind of includes all the hashes over all blocks, which
All the
means you've
files. Yeah.
cryptographically, with the strength of SHA-1 only, but okay,
Mm-hmm.
authenticated the content.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. And the thing is, for both HTTP and magnets, we kind of use Go libraries itself, so we don't have any kind of dependency on anything else.
Okay.
So it's like a mini bit the host.
Michael is the host now. Okay, Michael?
I got kicked
Yeah.
out. I thought it crashed. Weird. Okay. I
Okay.
don't know what happened. And
Zoom
note,
doing Zoom things.
yeah, Zoom's being Zoom. Note Mark's comment about using Vagrant and Packer. Do you have any? Do you want to share that, Mark? And welcome.
sorry, I'm a little bit late.
No worries.
I
There's no late.
you guys were mentioning the storing templates and stuff. So sometimes people like to install it via ISO and Cloud Init and Pre-Seed and all the very many ways to do it. But as you know, I've been working on the Vagrant stuff, and I've also created a free alternative to HashiCorp's Cloud.
Oh, okay.
I have in my repo right now. Put that in the chat here.
I see that.
I called it Box Vault. It's basically it uses the exact same process that you would use in Vagrant. It's just a self-hosted instance of HashiCorp Cloud, basically.
Okay.
So if you go to the site and the link, you can kind of see the 3 public images I have. I'm not familiar with either of those.
Okay, those are part of the HashiCorp stack.
Yeah, no, I don't. I try not to use any proprietary engine. So whenever they force us to stop using their free box cloud and start forcing us into HashiCorp, I kind of started to make my own tool.
Okay.
So
can you hold that whole topic until we run through his demo? Because that's an awesome topic to deep dive into.
Sure.
We're forking. I love it. Okay, go ahead, Hazam.
Okay. So do you guys have any questions? Like anything you see here? Any questions? Because I think I run better when I have questions asked.
Can we jump back to the CPU stuff for a second, Penny?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
John is the one to talk to.
Just a couple of comments for things you might look into.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to check your system to see if hyperthreading is enabled or disabled, and provide a choice for whether you pin both halves of the hyperthreaded core, or if you jump over the half core. Different loads will respond differently to how you do that assignment. If you have a dual processor or more system, you might want to check that also. You probably want to avoid pinning CPUs across a boundary. So you don't want half of your system sitting in NUMA zone 0 and half of it sitting in NUMA zone 1. Again, this will affect performance of your virtual machines.
If you have a really big virtual machine which does not fit on one socket, which is possible these days to have, then you have to make sure that bhyve actually reports two CPUs to the guest.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, repeat that slowly. So if you cross the NUMA domain, you have to what?
You have to set up those CPU options to bhyve so that bhyve knows it's on two physical systems, such that it reports that to the VM correctly, so the VM can make the right choices.
So 2 sockets, right?
Or more.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
And this sysctl has the scheduling topology.
You're dropping it in chat. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, got it.
It's just a fairly simple XML document where you get the scheduler topology.
Schedule topology spec.
I'm dropping it in the doc. Just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I ran across this. Yeah.
So yeah, you get a mask of which.
John, I'm going to mute you.
That's okay.
Somehow it's just on this call. I love it.
I'm almost done.
Okay, cool.
The other thing you want to do,
yes.
use procstat and look at the threads that bhyve creates, and you may want to assign the additional threads that the CPU pinning does not take care of.
So that you can create a CPU set.
I completely agree with you. I'm simply trying to give him some ideas to think of, so as he moves forward with this code, he can take into account the different situations that people will run into. I completely agree with you. You can set up a CPU set. This is the stuff I've been doing this for years, and it's something that he might want to take into account.
Exactly. One of the things you kind of want to think about for more advanced deployments, where you want to minimize the jitter introduced by the hypervisor, is to actually change the default CPU set so that you don't just pin the guest to certain CPUs, but you try to, as far as possible, unload the CPUs you're pinning the guest to, because that means that if the guest kernel uses stuff like spin locks, they actually behave similar to spin locks on physical hardware. And yeah, kernels have to use spin locks at times because in some contexts you just can't sleep or it would be too expensive to do. And if the hypervisor scheduler decides, no, your vCPU thread, sorry, it has to queue behind this interrupt and this other user space process and that bhyve companion thread, then yeah, suddenly you have stuff which should take 30 nanoseconds now takes 30 milliseconds.
Has anyone seen documentation or blog posts or articles or conference talks on that, or is it purely, I don't know, tribal wisdom?
I'm afraid it's more in the Tribal wisdom,
Or John
cargo
Wisdom.
cult category.
Lots and lots of testing. I will tell you.
Okay.
I also have use cases where we have on a Linux system we have idle equal poll specified. That's really fun to play with.
Idle equals poll. Okay.
Yeah, that basically the bhyve never gets to bhyve. It looks like all the CPUs are 100% in use.
Oh, so okay, like the good old days, like before it had the proportional
Before yield.
handling.
Yeah. Related stuff. But
Your power company will thank you.
If you have a highly latency excuse me, if you have something that can be affected by latency, if you have 100 gigabit cards pass through into the VM, and you want good performance out of it, these are some of the things that you end up having to look at.
Wow.
Scaling type issues. I realize this isn't there yet, but it could be.
Well, you can specify that for a machine when you create it. You can just tell it not to, drop the CPU proportionally. But so from the VM, you tell it to.
No, in the VM, you tell it not to drop the CPU. It's a grub command line option for the kernel, idle equal poll. You can look it up.
Can that be done in FreeBSD as an equivalent?
It doesn't. It won't work the same way.
Okay, thank you.
So FreeBSD does have ways to change how you pause. So with mRate versus idle versus knob. I don't remember the exact syntax. And we have, in theory, the polling flag on interfaces, where instead of interrupts, you just poll on every tick. Even now that the system is tickless, it still works. And then instead of getting tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of interrupt requests per second from your NIC, you will poll it at if you bump the tick rate up to 5 kilohertz or so, you poll it 5,000 times a second, which is low latency enough for most things and gives you some batching advantages because you're only polling the network card when you're already in the kernel for other stuff. Because you're in the preemptive scheduling.
Injects latency into the system. We can have a very long discussion about this.
That's a deep dive.
It's a trade-off.
Yes, that's a deep dive to have.
Not a universal improvement. No. It is something you can reach for if you think you need it, and then you should really benchmark it.
I look forward to your bhyvecon proposal on that deep dive. So moving on, Hazam, you still prefer questions at this point?
Yeah, some things I can answer maybe.
Yeah. Well, hey, you've come to the right place. Mark, it sounds like you have some goodies either in parallel or that might bolt onto this to provide an ecosystem for VMs.
Yeah, so I think I had showed the other week the Zone Weaver application that I've been kind of working on in the background. I had the idea of since I believe that Sylve has an API, and since my model is a controller node instead of just a node model, I'm able to have a front end connect to multiple backends. So if I get the API, I should be able to use the Sylve API and have either OmniOS machines and FreeBSD machines in the same interface.
So rephrasing that as a question, what's the state of the API in Sylve?
Yes. Thank you.
We do everything API based. So like everything that you see here is calling an API at some point. So you can use it just like how we use it. So I hope that answers your question.
It pretty much does. Do you have? I use JS Swagger for my API documentation. Do you have?
Yeah, same. We use Swagger too. Yeah. We use Swagger too. All our API endpoints are documented with Swagger.
Okay,
so,
then I should be good then.
Yeah. That's I probably do. We have a small script that takes care of this stuff, like the generation of Swagger, because I use Go with all those generation aspects. So like if you go into, let's see, handlers here, and you go into something, I write comments like this, and that script kind of take these comments and then turns that into an API.
Fair enough.
So yeah. And you get a nice little JSON here. I've put it in docs. Like you can see that there's a swagger.json. You can use that for working on with.
Learning the different options, parameters I can pass to the API.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it gives you all the struct parameters as well. So like, whatever you get back, whatever you have to give, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. That should work for
Yeah.
me. I will let you guys know
Yeah.
more in the next couple of meetings whenever I get time to work on that. But that was my next plan, was to, I know that some of the tools may not work exactly on OmniOS, so that's why I had started my project. But if I kind of merge them together and run bhyve from either host, using either your backend or my backend, I think that would be nice for the community to be able to switch between machines if they wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jan has some
Okay.
questions about, say, could the CLI be scriptable? I mean, for what it's worth.
As
What is
in having a
scriptable?
non-captive CLI client for the API.
I was thinking about that. Like, you mean like if I take in, let's say, if I go start the application, we have a CLI here. Ah, okay.
SylveCTL? Okay.
Yeah, we could have
Slive
that.
CDI guest start Windows 10.
Okay. Yeah, we could have that. Yeah, that's not an issue. Like, Go is really good with CLI applications. So yeah, we could have that. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, do
If
think
it has
through
tab completion
what that should
support
look
for
like.
Bash and ZSH and maybe Fish, it would be perfect because
Oh,
then
goodness.
you hit
Yeah, I like
if
it.
it becomes
I like
popular enough, the community will probably provide for that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So,
Jan also had some points about like ZTOP for per ZVol stats in the GUI. I want to remind you about having like dmessages at the bottom there as an option that you just pop out if you click on it, etc. You are moving quickly and doing cool things.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other notes?
Something. Sorry, you first.
Have you looked into any guest tools? Like, have you tried I know, I'm sorry to bring up the question,
fun
but
one. Yep. Let's go there.
The Proxmox interface shows the IP address because it uses the QEMU guest agent. And I was chatting with AI over the past couple of weeks, and I was like, why don't I just add a Virt.io console and attach it to the already made QEMU guest agents and see if I get anything back? That's what I'm gonna.
Okay,
I haven't done that yet, but that's my plan of
As for
attack.
that, the protocol is basically lines of JSON. Although the serial, so you use bhyve already has support for Virt.io console, and if you name the console port the magic name, the guest agent will find it, because in the guest it will, in the case of FreeBSD, for example, then there will be a symlink, and like it tries the dedicated name first and then a hard-coded name for a serial port. And the guest agent can just attach to that, but you kind of need the server side. And you can do
No, I have never really played with Virt.io console, to be honest. But I was just brainstorming this and I was thinking we kind of make our own little guest agent, because I need very little information from the VMs, like as he mentioned, maybe IP addresses, maybe like what is actually happening within the VM. I could, do some other way. Yeah.
The other thing which would be really, really nice to have is, since FreeBSD now has this new age in it, which is a kind of Lua rewrite of the essential aspects of cloud in it. If Sylve had support for generating the little CD image, which the cloud init clients can use to learn initial configuration, which packages to install, and so on. That's basically putting a well-known file name on a file system with makefs and then exposing it as a CD drive or something like that to the guest, like use the HCI CD emulation to the guest and give it a read-only file. And I think it's just a JSON file under a well-known path. And at least the basics like static IP address assignment, initial packages, a command to run should be like take a bunch of fields from the API, run them through JQ, and put it in a file, run makefs on the directory, expose it to the guest.
Yes, John.
Yeah, that would work as well. Yeah.
I was just trying to determine whether whether you were referring to Cloud Init or New Age Init.
Both of them follow the same conventions. New Age Init is a subset of Cloud Init built into FreeBSD.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to install the bloated Python Cloud Init stuff. Instead, you can use the subset supported by it with just in-base tools. And I think the service is auto-activated for find the right file system. So the rc.d scripts will just trigger if the image is exposed for FreeBSD.
Interesting.
You don't even have to configure anything. So
You said automatic. That sounds like in some way a weird attack vector, but what do I know?
Yeah, well, the attack vector kind of requires you to have physical access or hypervisor control plane access. But yes, it is an attack plane, similar to how deathmatch, which autoloads kernel modules for weird drivers when you have the right USB or PCI device attached to your system, can be an attack vector. It's a trade-off between convenience and security.
I'm just pitying Hazam, who's like, wait a minute, you're hitting me with a fire hose of all this, and thank you for handling it quite well. It's like, whoa, that escalated quickly. Anyway.
We're recording this, so
yeah, I know.
If his brain overflows from the fire hose we are pointing at him, maybe he can either watch the recording or come back next week and we can repeat the
totally. Well, yeah, I'm glad we're recording now. Yay. So, wow. And the thing I wanted to record earlier was your careful description, although it's quite good in the doc, about the true bridge behavior. But let's kick that down the road if we read.
But something which would be quite interesting and hopefully easy to implement compared to the rest at least is that FreeBSD 15 is supposed to bring VLAN filtering support into the bridge driver, thanks to Ivy's work.
Mm-hmm.
So FreeBSD 15, unless the commits get pulled, will be able to do VLAN filtering on the bridge, which people have been asking for years.
Hey, so before we kick bridge down the road, does this text that we discussed a little bit earlier, does that look okay with you guys?
Which thing?
Networking, the ifconfig, underlying member, whatnot. Where have you put it? You can edit it in doc if you like.
I think you put it in the doc closer to the top.
Yes, and Hey Tom, do you have the doc open? You could share within maybe a Sylve VM.
I don't think I have the docs open.
No worries. I'll drop.
Let me drop the link
just in case. No, I'm racing you, man. Here it is. Boom! Ha! Scroll down to breaking. Search on breaking.
Because, Michael, you've been writing things in a digestible way for a lot longer than I've been alive, and Jan has been understanding this stuff at a much deeper level than
any of us.
The rest of us. Yeah. So if it looks good to you guys, or there's any changes that need to be made, I'll put it in the notes.
Well, the strike through is not very attractive. That was just me thinking underlying could confuse people.
Okay, I can take out underlying since the whole doc we saw says member.
Underlying makes sense in that that's terminology used elsewhere, so it is useful.
Okay, your article Jan uses member extensively and doesn't mention underlying. So if underlying will make sense to some, find out how to make that just if it's as simple as just slash, fine. Just to whatever reduces confusion the most.
A space is good enough, not a slash.
Underlying member, fine,
yep.
Great. I'll take it. Yeah, that satisfies my concerns.
Okay, so I'll put that with discussed with Michael Dexter and Jan Braunkamp.
And Hazem and Andrew and Gibran and Hans and John and Mark.
John, which terminology would you prefer?
I was actually thinking something slightly different.
Please.
I would have, you could always come in, the actual option is add M, to add the member interface. So
Yeah.
you could actually say the add M, apostrophe D, the add-emmed interface. And that way,
you're right.
That way it's very, there you go, apostrophe D,
member.
the add-emmed interface.
But add-em is short for add member.
I agree, but
and you can't add-em them because the add-em operation is what failed. So you cannot have an add-emmed interface with the wrong configuration.
Agreed. It fails. Fix it.
Yeah, fix the configuration. Don't do it. But
so
yeah, well then that's the other thing that's like, that's what SourceMGR wants to see out of me, is that I write the doc in such a way that encourages people to do the right thing and and doesn't use these kind of, like Emast was like, hey, if you write the word workaround, people are going to gun right to that and they're not going to read anything else, and nobody is ever going to implement the correct behavior, and it will actually be your fault because we know.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like he was gentler than that, but I'm not gentle. That's how I interpreted it, and it made sense to me.
So people choose.
Part of the discussion on the mailing list was that this is a limited time backward compatibility option to allow you to defer fixing your configuration to 16, where it will no longer be optional.
That sounds great.
So it's to
temporarily bypass the safeguard.
Yeah. So and that it is
if you're assigned
this behavior is incorrect, compatibility with it is deprecated, and is expected to be removed in FreeBSD 15.
John?
Nice.
I was trying to take the little slightly harsher attitude he was talking about.
Bring it on, yeah.
If you're assigning the IP address on the interface, then you're probably doing that to take the easy road out because you don't want to have to manipulate the VMs.
Or the host to add a VM. That's been the full circle to the day one. It's like, what's the easiest way to try bhyve back when it was painful as hell?
Yeah, that's a problem because unless you have out of band access
correct
to the system, it's a really dicey thing to ask an inexperienced operator to, hey, please reconfigure the interface with your default route on it.
Step one, lose access to your server. Step two, never mind.
Or change to nrc.conf and hope that it comes back in a working configuration on the first attempt.
Actually, guys, just one quick note there.
Yes,
I was thinking about this problem for the last few weeks.
Yes.
Like most of the people who are going to install Sylve are going to do it on a server. So like they will have the IP address assigned on an interface. So imagine like we're doing that and then they're creating a bridge. So if they assign an IP here, the same one, let's assume the same one, what happens? Like, do we lose connection instantaneously, or is there some wiggle room where they do this and then that interface doesn't matter? Like what happens in between all this?
So what happens in 14, and if you set the sysctl and will happen in 15, is that adding a bridge and then adding your physical already configured interface to the bridge doesn't change the thing. What will be the problem is when it comes time to add your bhyve guest tab interfaces to the bridge, you have a scope violation, because the correct thing to have is to have one link scope for all the bridge ports. So the bridge is a single link for IPv6 and implicitly, even if less important, also for IPv4. But if you have IP addresses on the members, the kernel instead will treat each member interface with an IP address configured as an additional link. And any
Yeah, I get that.
link
But the
local
thing is,
traffic like up or NDP for IPv6 will be treated as scope to the member, not to the whole bridge. That's the problem.
Okay, so I'll rephrase my question, I guess. So now imagine RE0 as 192.168.1.1, and we make a bridge here, okay? And the bridge we assign the same IP, okay? And
But
then
You can't do that?
like
Not really?
what is happening in this state? Like
hold on.
here, like
Back up a second. If I did something years ago that might prove useful for you,
okay.
when you go to add a bridge and you want to have RE0 be a member of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Build a small shell script to perform that operation and transfer the IP address over to the bridge, and then give it a few seconds, and then try to ping your default route. If it doesn't work, the shell script then transfers the IP address back to RE0 and removes the bridge.
The problem is that when you remove the IP address from the physical interface like RE0, which you have to do to then assign it correctly to the bridge, by removing it, you will also remove all routes using this IP address. So you will, among others, lose your default route.
You have to capture your state, and then you have to restore it. I'm not trying to get into the full technical details of every line of code.
Yeah,
Okay,
how
about this? Okay. Breaking. If config will no longer accept misconfigured bridges, the IP requires IP addresses to be assigned to the bridge, not the underlying member interfaces. To temporarily bypass this safeguard, use the net.link.bridge member if adders sysctl. This sysctl is expected to be removed in FreeBSD 16.
Maybe say that historically FreeBSD accidentally allowed the following misconfiguration to take effect.
Never admit guilt.
No, admit guilt. This configuration was always broken or never worked correctly or something like that.
Alexander, are you writing this down? Because it's not in the doc for what you said.
Yeah. I'm writing this down.
Great. Okay.
And then I'm gonna mesh all this stuff together as best as I can, keep it terse, make it as clear as possible. I want it to be clear to people who it doesn't apply to as well. Like that's a stated goal of the release notes. Like the release notes is a super duper user facing doc, and we want it to be even clear to noobs what's going on here.
It is only relevant to people who use the bridge driver.
Incorrectly at that.
No, who use the bridge driver. So if you're not using bridges in FreeBSD, it doesn't apply to you. And among those who use bridges, it only matters to those who incorrectly put IP addresses on the member interfaces instead of a bridge.
But the bridge is a dependency to some tools that people use, and they may not understand what's going on under the covers.
Well, and bridges existed before bhyve. Thank you very much.
Right? Interface so that it's no longer called bridge number something. There's a good chance that if you're using some kind of jail or bhyve management script, which renames the bridge interface to something, I don't know, private and public or whatever, then there's a chance they just don't know what's happening.
This is really going to be most dangerous to people with bhyve and jail managers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Put it
because my users, I don't think they really care what driver we use or what we're doing underneath. I just don't want them to lose connectivity, you know?
Okay, which are two different points. And of course, some people have super complex existing networks and VLANs and you name it. And some people are like, here's my brand new box, I'm trying this thing. So just, draw that line. Definitely support existing configurations. That's one of those, rules that a lot of things have violated in managers. Like, oh, we're going to do it this one way. It's very opinionated and no one's happy. Go ahead.
tell them that you would recommend the following change to try or something, and then ask them to reboot, and basically don't automate this kind of stuff, or even that Sylve, because it doesn't have a big established user base, you just, even on 14, detect this misconfiguration and say, hey, user, you have to change this. So that your automation doesn't break it, but the user is expected to follow some setup guide. Because fully automating this in the general case is just
it's a
not
pretty
feasible.
bad idea. It's just asking for trouble. Yeah, makes sense.
You
Or
can
you're trying to boil
automate
the
common
ocean of
cases,
configuring networking in FreeBSD. Go ahead, Jan.
For example, let's say your host is also running a dynamic routing daemon. Suddenly, just dumping the routing table and reinstalling the routes with the same next hop IP addresses on the other interface after the connected route changed. And so now the link is the bridge instead of the physical interface is incorrect, because maybe there's a, I don't know, bird or free range routing daemon running, which is now completely confused that you deleted routes and reinstalled routes, and maybe it undoes it and insists on reinstalling the old, or it's now out of sync and will not fix that quickly. Yeah, so we can really mess stuff up. Or if you have some kind of SDN tool like Zero Tier running, which also installs words. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to think on how to communicate that.
Well, networking is an absolute can of worms, and lifestyle and career and all that. So then the virtualization taps gently into it and has dependencies on it, and it doesn't know if it's going to be a fire hose or not, where, oh, we have this overlay network, such as you described the other day, Jan, on a call, which is like a zero dependency. Everyone do check out the jail call from a week or two ago. But let's focus briefly again on the rollback. That is something that TrueNAS eventually introduced, insofar as it's like, okay, we're going to try the new configuration for 60 seconds and then roll back if needed. But does that mean, oh, we are documenting, saving the state of your bird or FFR routing, and we're saving all your manually set routes, and we're saving your zero tier config, we're saving a zillion different things? Or where do we draw that line? What's that?
For some of the tools, there is no solution. They insist on installing the routes, and they will periodically rescan if the routes are still there, and if not, they will attempt to reinstall, and if that fails, they may even attempt to delete the conflicting route and replace it with their own. There are really tools which insist that this route belongs to me. You dumb user do not get to tinker with it because I'm a security solution.
Right. Well, so that said, let's draw a line.
This is no longer just your computer.
Not reinvent pfSense. Let's not OpenSense. And hey, Zam, good luck. This is not a trivial challenge, and there are those on the enterprise working group calls who have proposed for complete FreeBSD management GUI tools. Well, I'll stick with the phrase "boiling the ocean." There's just so many different options there that
I would be happy if we just add optional UCL support for most tools in Base.
That's been a narrative for a decade.
You have your etc freebsd.conf, and it includes all the other UCL files, so that you have a unified object tree. Not going to happen.
Although, Jan, you did have a cool prototype that you mentioned at EuroBSD. But so let's help Hazam here. What's a reasonable
That was something different.
Scope, okay, fine, of a default networking opinion, I suppose is the right word. And then what does rollback look like to that opinion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think my opinion is that the VMs should follow the existing network. They should not start redefining what the network is. So the network should define the VMs.
I
If that
think
makes sense.
the VM management solution should not be expected to also be your one-stop solution for all your networking configuration.
Exactly. Your network
Just
solution should remain your network solution, and the VM should sort of fall in line with that. Sort of follow the leader, and the leader should be your networking solution.
So channeling
Okay,
everyone, your
I
server
think
should be
the
properly
challenge with
configured
that.
for the bridge, right?
So
Yeah.
Before you
exactly, yeah,
touch
that is
Sylve.
the challenge here. Like we assume that everything is properly configured on the host before we start doing anything. This is where where I saw Proxmox getting it somewhat right. Like they kind of start from a clean slate, so the state between the user and the UI is the same. So even if you change something on the host, it immediately reflects on the UI. Like it's
Right.
just one file, right? etc networking stuff. So I would follow that route, and I wouldn't let like all kinds of configs, I would say, because one, it makes things really difficult for us. Like I'm on a very simple host here with just 2 NICs, and now I'm confused. Like, what do I do with this?
Right.
Like now, immediately looking at this, what I would do is I'll make the bridge, kind of migrate over the state from that interface, and then just delete everything on that interface. That's what I would have done. But now I'm like,
that's
okay, maybe
perfectly
that's not the
fine.
best
That
way.
will work.
Yeah.
The problem
Okay.
is that in between those steps, you lose connectivity.
Exactly. No, but the thing is, like the script here, how it works is I make the bridge now, and I just kind of assume that this IP or whatever IP they're entering will be fine.
I thought
But
you just
along with
assumed
that,
it's
I would have
correct.
to do I would have to clear this interface completely. And then whatever the state was on RE0, I kind of take that and then put it over this bridge.
So
So in between,
one thing
even if the
you can
user
do,
loses connectivity, it doesn't really matter to us, right?
one thing you can do even on a remote system without out-of-band management is to do IPv6 or IPv4 first, and then the other protocol afterwards. So
No,
that you
one
move
second. Like I
one
didn't get like
address family
why
and
would
then
it
the
be an
other
issue
one.
to like do this? Like if I go here and if I make a switch, like what happens is I make the bridge first, okay, and then nothing is on this bridge immediately. If it's DHCP, I kind of run DHCP whatever the daemon is. But instead of doing that, if I have an IP here already, why can't I just remove this and then migrate it here? Like the process still runs, right?
What if there's more going on
process
that's not
runs.
obvious to the script? It's, the network could be remarkably complex, and
Okay, yeah,
you're making
that
an
situation
assumption
it
there,
just
no?
breaks. Yeah, it just breaks.
Let's
So,
assume I
Yeah.
have a static route configuration in my rc.conf. Just default
Okay.
router equals whatever. Or maybe I have several static routes configured with interfaces, and my default route is not a direct route, but an indirect route. Like I first have a static route to this network and my default gateway in this other network. It's not even on the same subnet as the machine itself. Some hosters insist on doing bullshit like that. Yeah, if you have this problem, then suddenly your configuration just wouldn't work, as in you would be missing your default route. You would have an IP address, and if
Exactly,
you're
yeah.
on the same network, you could get back in. But if it's a server you rented somewhere in the internet at large, suddenly you're just locked out because your server is running fine. It just doesn't know where the rest of the world is.
And who wants to diagnose that as simple as Hans jumping on the call and having 15 bork his bridge, such that is there a way to simply test if there's a bridge present and members that have IPs on them and say, look, go fix this, come back later once you fix this?
Yeah, you could just make a big noisy warning, kind of make the bridge configuration yellow if you detect that.
Like, beep, beep, beep.
Every
This
time
will be a
someone
problem.
looks at it,
Trust us.
and on startup, you check if the bridge has members, and for each member, the member has an IP address, and if so, you create an annoying pop-up in the web UI, detected misconfigured bridge. And then you have a
that
little
sounds
help
like a good
button
stopgap.
next
Yeah.
to that, and that points somewhere in your project's wiki on GitHub or wherever with this is the problem definition, like similar to what my wiki page does.
In Alexander's documentation, plus yours, yes. Point to the real correct docs. Okay.
With a setup guide, as in what you have to change, why you have to change it, and how you can change it, and what to watch out for so that you don't lock yourself out. And then give a bunch of like the 2 or 3 common example configurations. So assuming you have this configured, this is how you have to change it, reboot, and hope that you understood it correctly.
Yes. Us knowing that their network could be ridiculously unintuitively complex in ways you've never heard of. So
But
software
in
defined with
that case,
overlays and
it's
blah, blah,
on
blah, blah,
them
blah.
to
So
understand the network.
correct. And just, set a scope of what you can safely check for and move on. And then keep developing your code rather than dedicating the rest of your life to network configuration and FreeBSD. Are you planning to support jails?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well
I
then,
just wanted to get this networking and VM stuff right
absolutely.
before I
Well,
kind
I
of
say
jump
that
into
because there's
those.
a lot going on. There's a lot of nifty development going between, be it Jan, be it others, be it all the OSI stuff. So, going full circle, check out Dave's demo from Tuesday's Jails call on using OCI, because if your simple API can poke into what he's doing, I think it will be win-win.
Okay.
It sounds like, Jabon, you have to go. Good afternoon. I've cloned the repo and you're going to play with it. Great. Yes, we have another user. Okay. Then one small note. I don't know if I shared Chris's scripts from EuroBSDCon about jailing VMs, but hey, let's get these parts all lined up separately. By
Yeah,
default, zones on and bhyve on Lumos jails the zone for safety, but that's for another day.
bhyve on FreeBSD sandboxes itself using Capsicum. That's always on. So even if you obtain code execution in the bhyve process from inside the guest kernel and escaped into the hypervisor, the next step would be you're locked into a very tight Capsicum sandbox where you
Great.
can't open any new files, devices, or other stuff.
Cool.
You can only do basically the stuff the guest kernel could already do through the power virtualized drivers. Oh, if I get code execution in the bhyve user space process, I can inject Ethernet frames. Yeah, you already could do that by just routing them through the guest vidIO device.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is lots to think about. We look forward to your progress. You're doing great, and this was a very pleasant surprise.
So just to bring
Thank
it,
you guys. Thank you.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes,
if
John.
we've been talking about bridges, but everything we've talked about here could actually just be implemented with NetGraph.
Oh, dropping the bomb. Okay, so
That's the classic.
this could all be done with NetGraph. Thank
And
you.
it does have better performance.
And GBuddy.
And GBuddy, which is something you can search in the docs here that Daniel has produced. Have you heard of NetGraph? How's that?
I have, but I have not played around with it much.
Okay. In that nifty list of radio buttons and checkboxes and all, maybe someday one can at least kind of block out where you would need to adjust things slightly for NetGraph. Note NG, I believe Buddy. And if you're watching the screen there, I'm going to search for it. And Buddy, BUDDY, BUDDY. Boom. Here's a link to it. I'll drop it in the chat and the doc. Found it. It's come up many, many times. And John, are you using NetGraph Buddy or anybody? Breaking.
I have both. I have some static systems using NGBuddy, but I am also slowly moving towards dynamic configuration.
Cool.
Crossbow here.
It's a slow.
Also using
crossbow. Yeah, be
NetGraph?
nice. Be nice. Did you
Every other meeting.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's not a problem on Illumos. Oh, yeah, stop. And we know. Don't rub it in. Just
Yeah, we just have to port Fire Engine and Crossbow, and we will be fine, right?
Fire Engine, what's that? I put this on.
That's kind of the driver model behind it.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Stuff so that you can take kind of you write a driver and then the network stack has enough insight into it, at least if I understand the white paper correctly. For example, so that if you add a MAC address to a bridge, instead of doing the bridging in software like you do, you kind of configure a compatible network card to say, hey, this MAC address has this hardware queue, and then you connect this hardware queue on the NIC with this virtual NIC, the VNIC, whatever, and you get effectively zero CPU overhead because the NIC does the demultiplexing.
We are at a moose jaw.
Well, I need to
Now,
head
before I
anyway.
forget,
Andrew, take
is somebody
care.
working
Yes,
on live migration stuff?
Funny you should ask. We started the call there. Hans is porting the Illumos CPU ID work, which was pretty darn fundamental to all things migration, if I have
Okay.
characterized that correctly. Hans, do you want to give a quick recap on the factors at play?
Yes.
The tone of your voice. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So the Illumos CPU ID work that I'm porting allows us to configure any and each CPU ID leaf and function that we want, and fake whatever CPU type and features that we want. And the code that's coming from Illumos is only the kernel part. And I've been porting that, and on top of that, I've been developing a rather simplistic and primitive interface that you can specify the CPU ID leaves and values that you want to use, and to send that to the kernel and set it in a relevant vCPUs for the VM. There are still a couple of problems that I'm having. For instance, you need to specify all CPU ID leaves that you want to use, that the CPU is supposed to have, not just one that you want to change.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that is something that I might change in the code as it came from Illumos. Yeah, and in general, this needs to be much more user-friendly and easier to use if this is supposed to be useful, except for niche use cases. But it's something, it's a start.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
It's a start, and we are going from the simplest host pass-through to, I mean, a bit like John's bhyve config file. All the options that are not as friendly as they can be, but they're also the building blocks for a simpler, more friendly system. So I don't hold back. It is Unix. You might burn your fingers. Such is life. So excellent work, Hans. And again, anyone out there who wants to help fund that work, please reach out to Hans or myself. For those massive corporations on the call here, going down the list, well, gosh, you're all at pretty cool organizations, short of us freelancers. Anyway, thank you, Hazam, if no one said it to date. Great work.
No,
That's
no
exciting.
worries.
Your timing was
Thank you for having
perfect.
me.
You were based okay over there. Is there any chance you could make it to EuroBSDCon, bhyvecon?
I might apply for a travel grant with the
Please apply
foundation.
for a
I'm
travel
not sure
grant.
yet. Yeah. I
Those were
might,
very
I'm not sure
successful for
yet,
the
but
BSD
yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Did you
Super.
submit any talks?
Sorry, no, I did not. I discovered that there was something called EuroBSD, something like last week maybe, and I think it's already too late.
It closed just the other day. They announced just the other day, but
Yeah.
as part of that, there is a meta talk tutorial, which happens to be EuroBhyvecon, such that if you've got content, you get a travel grant. I look forward to your demo.
Okay. I'm
I'll talk
probably
to the
gonna
program
do every
committee.
post request, on a fake machine because I don't want anything to flash.
And of course, if you need some local hardware to show up, just let people know in advance. The AV team is spending quite a bit of effort on coordinating things. So if asking another question like, oh, do you have cheap TVs? No, not nice displays, cheap TVs. It's very important that they're cheap TVs for the display output on the ATEMs, blah, blah, blah. Welcome to my world. Anyway, other questions, ideas, thoughts, concerns, funny jokes, you name it. This has escalated into a fantastic call. Let's see, who is still around? We are at 41 after. Alexander, would you like the honors? You are unmuted. Hopefully you know what I mean.
Like and subscribe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have fun.
Thank you.